Welcome back to the Gather Signal for this month. Vibe coding is good now? Are supplier portals the devil and the angels that save you from them? And finally, a white paper on the pain points of polish. How's that for a cold open, CJ?
It's pretty warm, actually.
All right. Well, I did my best.
Slow cap if the mic would pick up.
Medium rare. It's a medium rare open.
All right. Well, nice. I wrote one and I said it, and I'm going to keep doing it. So we're going to do our best here. Joining me again for the second iteration, Christophe Jammet,
What's up?
Managing Director of Emerging Platforms at Gather. Welcome back, buddy.
Hello.
Good to
Glad
see
to
you.
Be back.
For the first time, Andrea Stein, and this is a better title than yours, Brand Story Builder at Gather. I like that one a lot.
Thank you.
And finally, Rudy Chang, the man with the white paper and Managing Director of Business Transformation at Gather. Rudy, thanks for stopping by. So, listeners, viewers, you know the deal. We're going to give you our signals for what we think is going on this month. We're going to do some synthesis, try to tell you what we think that means about the world at large in marketing, independent work, all the things we care about. Christophe, are you ready to tell us why vibe coding is good now?
Yes, qualified statement, though.
Okay.
Vibe coding is good in the hands of the masses in corporations.
Okay,
because
that's a lot of proviso.
My hypothesis or my take is that vibe coding is the best way to get proofs of concept out of the way. I've been saying it a very long time. It's never been easier to get an idea 70% of the way there. If you want to validate an idea, see if it removes pain, see if it addresses issues. That's not going to happen at the SVP level. You need to have people who are suffering the consequences of shitty processes. Yeah. You need to give them the tools to figure out how to get out of those shitty processes.
Yeah.
And what they're not, though, is enterprise level developers. So, a vibe coded app does not an enterprise piece of software make. Mm-hmm. But if you create a good enough program where people can get the idea validated, go, this saved me 5 hours a week doing stuff I hated to do, and it scales because there's 100 people like me in this company. Now you don't have to spend the expensive developer dollars testing all those ideas out. Once you figure out this is worth doing, then you hand it over to real developers who actually make it something that's not going to break and cause a huge liability lawsuit down the line.
Yeah. I have a real world example of this. I was just talking to one of our good pals and ex-clients last week who came from a big company, is now at a little company. I mean, a little company, couple hundred people, but has a product team of like 5 people. And it's basically like, because of these tools and basically just vibe coding it, we can just design, put on the glass an idea immediately and get it in front of people and be like, hey, would this work? It works like this. And they can do that with 5 people and not have to have like the churn of like all the meetings and processes, and you got to bring this in front of the head of sales and you got to find your stakeholders and whatever. You're like, just show up. We made it already. You want us to really, really make it. Let's get the devs in and really, really make it.
It's a lot quicker, and there's also all of these other benefits that come from it. Because if you're creating a system where everyone can come together, get some shared understanding, work on these ideas together, because nobody's having a problem by themselves often, right? Everyone will be like, oh yeah, I hate that too. Let's think about it. You get all these different minds on it. The best way to learn how to use AI is by using it and experimenting and being curious. So it's better than some run-of-the-mill AI training module that they're making you take about what a markdown file is. You're getting in, you're using it, and you're building institutional knowledge internally. And you're freeing up space for these people to do more of the humanistic work that AI shouldn't do, which I think will tie nicely to someone else's signal.
It also sounds like really good therapy for perfectionists to see how imperfect action can live in the world and you won't die.
It's innately an iterative act. And the more you let people collaborate, the more you remove the fear and anxiety of what AI is. It can truly be an enabler of getting the crappy parts of your job out of the way.
Yeah. I think also it, it goes back to the basic of, when we think about a UX research process, and one of the key moments in that validation is a prototype. And in quote the old days, right, it was a paper prototype. You just draw something on paper and say, well, point to this, point to that. In the same amount of time, you could build a functioning beyond prototype, right, at the same speed, basically now with it. And we know the value is multiplied from it because you're not just kind of pretending on a piece of paper or a prototype HTML website that doesn't connect to any back end. Now you have a functioning app.
Right. And I know historically a lot of your work, Rudy, has involved trying to help teams get out of like the stakeholder bloat that slows down a lot of that process. And this certainly when you can get through a couple cycles that would have otherwise had to go through those checkpoints, I bet that helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, actually, so CJ and I actually earlier this morning we were talking about the idea about having this idea of 70%, right? Something kind of 70% complete.
Yeah.
How many great ideas have withered on the vine because you're sitting in some IT or development queue, behind ticket number 2001 that'll never get to, right? Because the idea it takes resources to do all this validation up front. The cost of that has now just gone down to pennies.
I've long lamented that UX research is often the first thing to go away when a budget starts to get crunched.
Yeah. Yep.
And it is so tragic because UX research is one of the only ways you can shut down a bad idea from an executive.
Yeah.
Because you get to say that idea is terrible because I'm not saying it, but everyone else is saying it. Sorry, that's a terrible idea. Objectively, there is research. And so what happens is when UX research goes away, you lose an entire empathy layer. And this is almost like sneaking the UX research vegetables in the smoothie. By getting everyone together to collectively say, these are pain points we want to address, and then giving them a low-cost way to try and solve it themselves. We're back in business, baby.
Yeah.
All right, well, it seems like we're in radical agreement.
Nice.
Do you expect you get more pushback on championing vibe coding in this day and age?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think we get the vibe, as it were.
The
Andrea.
commenters will surely have their way with me.
I'm sure they will. Andrea.
Yeah.
you
Shitty
got a
processes
signal.
felt like a good segue.
Yeah, right? Shitty processes. What do you got going on?
I actually had a really gratifying moment, kind of on the other end of big institutional systems that really feel archaic now in contrast to what you're talking about, but still exist. So doing work as a one-person business with a very large company, navigating I guess a supplier portal so that I could get paid. So I, kind of got through to even just get my profile approved and got an email from someone who had actually helped me on a Teams to walk through the form with me to say, oh, you can ignore that. Oh, that one, don't worry about that. This doesn't make sense. Enter this, even though I would have never intuitively come up with that. She sent an email saying, we'd like to get feedback. So I was expecting a survey link or something, that would go into another void. And lo and behold, it was a call with 3 or 4 humans. And we were able to talk through in quite great detail the problems that I faced. And I was able to send back to them, which was kind of my favorite thing. I got to do screenshots and markup where I thought the language disconnect was happening because whoever's building the system has context that I don't have.
Yeah.
And so being able to show tangible examples of, okay, the form says this, it sounds like you're looking for this other thing. I thought something else entirely different. Here's a way we could potentially, start writing some stuff for them just to help further the dialogue along. But I was so delighted to have a conversation. And it just struck me how easy it is to forget that we can have those conversations with, 20 minutes of interaction. We were able to knock out some things that might be challenging thousands of their vendors.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to get to that room full of people in this process?
Oh, let's see. 2.5 months, I would say.
Okay.
But it happened.
Yeah.
It happened.
So it's like part of the signal here is the relief that happens and how helpful that actually is and how that's probably like all we ever desire of our business relationships.
Yeah. It also struck me that the people that I was talking with today were lovely and earnest and very interested in making this a better process. But most people would just be interacting with, the system and getting super pissed off because it is not behaving the way. So they're probably getting beat up on some level for the user experience not being optimal, but they're really trying too.
Yeah.
It kind of speaks to the kind of evergreen push-pull of companies trying to save money. And in doing so, they shoot themselves in the foot because the money savings are immediate, but the degradation is longer term, right? So, they having people on salary who are going to have a real conversation, so you get the actual context beyond an NPS score, is so valuable to the company. But maybe not on the time basis that their executives are compensated against, right? Or they just don't even realize that in 2 quarters, you're going to see so much savings out of the churn from somebody being able to get through a portal quicker. You know, unless it's a feature, not a bug, that they want people to take 2.5 months to fill out a form so that they can get paid.
I've seen many of these procure to pay portals or order to cash systems, right? They are god awful to work with, right, from a usability perspective. But a lot of the work we do, right, is around, I wonder, right, that feedback that this person asked you for, what do you think is now the process that they have to go to with their tech department to actually get the changes made? And how did they get prioritized, right? And so much of the work we do across companies is when you have something that's customer facing or user facing, the fastest route to get that complete is you pair a developer, you pair a UX or a content or designer with a business user together working to just solve the problem. And you could probably get that done in probably a week.
Yes.
But that process will drag on because of our functionally oriented ways companies are set up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We always have that pendulum swing of vertically cordoning off function, and then every now and then you get to some innovation idea where you put everyone that's needed to do a job in one place. Novel idea, and then a new CMO comes in and they're like, "No, fuck that," and then it's like, "No, okay, the developers are here, and you need to send a Pony Express to ask them to put in a Jira ticket, and the designers are in Malta, and the writers are I don't know what country they're in, but they're somewhere." And it's the same thing. And companies go through the same thing with agencies and internal hires as well, right? So every now and then, those pendulums come together at the right time and really magical work happens.
Yeah.
And it's so fleeting and it's so tragic when that goes away because you get that. I remember that feeling with some clients where you had the perfect Scrum team. Right. Sprint planning was like 15 minutes long. You knew exactly what you needed to do. NPS scores were up 80, 80 points.
Yeah.
And then one role changes and everything just crumbles like a Greek tragedy. And it's like,
Yep. When I was in an in-house role, we were working on a client portal, and I had maybe 2 hours a week where I would just sit with folks from the UX team, and we would go through screens, individual, bill paying, ironically, and talk through what sort of tone of voice should we be using. And I know now there are AI tools to serve that up, but we were able to talk about specific nuances with this client segment, of which there were many, and we could bang things out. And then that whole team was eliminated.
Rudy, if I can ask, like, this is something I know you run into a lot when you go into new clients and you see that they are at the point where the pendulums are like not at all close to each other. What are some of the first steps you try to take to get those things coming closer together?
So I think one of the things that I've seen where the pendulums get crossed or confused is that we don't know, the organization has lost sight on what it's trying to optimize for.
Okay.
So the idea being that, so we do a lot of work, and again, we, in particular, a lot of marketing organizations, right? So what we find is there is always a part of the portfolio that is meant to drive some sort of growth. And then there's a part of the portfolio that honestly, it's all about making small edits to PDF sales enablement cut sheets, right? Like little one-line phrase or regulatory updates. And what happens is that the traditional organization is optimized generally at the cost center level, and everyone is trying to optimize their cost center because most people are under some sort of cost center pressure. But then what you have are the handoffs across functions that CJ was talking about or that you were mentioning. And whenever you have really important growth level work that requires multiple functions to work together, the system's not organized in a way to optimize against the outcome of growth, which requires iteration and a learning-based process. And we're still optimized. We're trying to drive a growth marketing type of a program using resources that have been locked in that are optimized for cost.
Yeah.
And those two things are diametrically opposed. And so to go back to your question about this idea of the pendulum, the first question I ask is, what are we actually trying to optimize for? Are we trying to optimize for an organization that is making updates to PDF files that goes to the Salesforce? In which case I'd say, okay, that's pretty much a transactional based, and you could look to automate that work, maybe move it to different parts of the world where the cost of labor is, you can arbitrage that. But if you're really trying to grow, where the path to the growth is uncertain and requires learning, you require a completely different operating structure. And in most cases, there's both. There's a growth point of view, and then there's a efficiency and delivery, in which case we look at actually separating how the work flows through the system, right? And so anyway, I think it goes back to this idea of what are we trying to optimize for in the organization? And honestly, you get a lot of stares a lot of times. Just answer that question. What is the optimization objective?
Right. And it can't just be cost go down
and
price
and
go up.
grow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That also kind of speaks to another area that seems to be on the chopping block quite often, which is insights. To really understand not what you think internally makes sense, but what the market says and feels and considers when they're making decisions about your company or your organization. Right. And too often that gets just lost.
I see it a lot too. I find, Rudy, I think you kind of speak to this idea of there's a lack of like holistic integrated thinking, right? So what happens is you can have a client that is making amazing content, and then their advertising organization is over here going, doo, doo, doo. Oh, you spent all this money creating this great content, and you want to advertise and boost it with money, with our ad dollars? We don't have any money. We spend it all on airport billboards.
Yep.
Oh, we spend it on a TV ad that amorphously talks about
Nothing.
some technology that we're loosely affiliated with. To your point, what's the point of making great content if you're not going to make sure the right people see it? It's like making an Eames chair and then putting it on the sidewalk and hoping the right person who can afford to buy it sits in it. Which in New York, I guess, could happen. I'm taking an Eames chair no matter what. But like it's putting it out for sale for like $4,000 outside and hoping the right person sees it, as opposed to like advertising it in financial. I don't know, the Financial Times, whatever. Yeah.
I seem to remember the closure of a certain office that involved some street side Eames chairs.
I wish I had gotten some of that.
And some enterprising youth who rented U-Hauls to make sure they got their fair cut. I was not one of them.
That's a design within reach.
I was not smart enough, but I think about that too frequently. All right, Rudy, we have a signal from you masquerading as a white paper, or a white paper masquerading as a signal. Either way, you got something meaty for us to consider here. We will link this white paper for those of you who want to get the rest of the deal, but for you listeners who are too lazy, Rudy, give us all for free your insights here.
AI, like many technologies, through disruptive technologies through history, if you're not careful and you apply AI to a creative process, you risk eroding the very thing that makes you creative. All right. And so what we mean by that, so let's look at through history, right? Do you remember something called auto-tune?
Sure.
The music, right? Yeah, nice.
Oh,
so auto-tune, right? Auto-tune came out, and it had this idea of like kind of almost like leveling imperfections, while it ended up creating this weird, but it could take many different inputs, right, and kind of flatten it. And then what happened? It kind of exploded. All of a sudden, everything was auto-tuned. Even some, there's still even some music, right, using it. Do you remember stock photography on corporate websites?
Oh,
right?
yes.
What happened to that? It's still there.
Yeah, it happens to me every day.
Right?
Still.
The generic picture of people in some atrium holding laptops, like they ran into each other in the stairwell, and maybe it's a racially and ethnic and gender diverse group that are kind of
enjoying a salad.
Yeah. So, and that exploded. And now what happens? You have basically the enshittification of that experience across all these websites, right? And what happens with an AI-based process, yes, great for prototyping, right? But what comes out of that prototyping, it's using pretty standard building blocks, right? Of how you build a web page and building and UX components, which is great because it's up-leveling anyone who maybe doesn't have that skill. But what happens is the output starts to kind of look the same. So we're calling that effect kind of this immediate boost of kind of output and polish, but in totality, creativity is flattening. Mm-hmm. And what happens is if you don't keep line of sight on the very decisions in your creative process that actually makes you distinct, then you fall risk to this idea of this creative plateau. And so all kind of our hypothesis is, or approach is, really understand where are the parts in your internal creative ideation process, or could be product development process, or art direction process. What are the parts of of the workflow or the people's job responsibilities where you want human judgment, right? You want the human piece in it, and what are the crappy parts of the process you just want to get rid of, right? So it's kind of this idea of like above the line and below the line, right? Yeah. Above the line are the things we want people to be spending their time on. Mm-hmm. Below the line are the non-value added tasks that are just part of everyone's job. And yeah, AI is fantastic to just automate and speed up a lot of those processes. And so I think every organization or function kind of that, again, depends on distinctiveness. It's not just a creative thing, right? But what's the thing that makes you unique? And if you're not careful, you can kind of let that out the door, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's the basic premise of the paper. We call it intentional AI adoption.
Okay. Kirsten was talking about it last month, where AI was trained on us, but it creates this homogeneous normalization, almost like a compressor, like a pass-through audio filter, mm-hmm. right? Where all the spikes in the audio get smoothed out. And the irregularities are what make you human. Mm-hmm. Not just like better creative thinking, but sometimes it's the flaws, sometimes it's the irregularities, it's the quirks. Mm-hmm. And when processes are too polished, the homogenization is just uncanny as hell. Even though it's rooted in being trained on the entirety of human culture and existence, mm-hmm. If everyone's using the same Instagram filter,
yep,
they're all going to look the same.
That's right. Yep. If you actually think about the way the AI models are built over time, every time there's a new release, and we go from 1 million to 10 million, 100, now 2.3 billion parameters, right? That is all to drive to a more narrow and more certain set of outputs. Mm-hmm. It's actually diametrically opposed to errors.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because the whole point of it is to try to get to—
sample size is bigger, right?
Yeah,
and is larger.
And it's trying to get to a more predictable result. And so again, that has its time and place, and that's all we're trying to say with this.
This episode is like a sound person's dream. We're talking about auto-tune. We're talking about compressors. Finally, this is going to spike the numbers on this one.
Right. What's your favorite audio compressor, Jason?
My favorite audio compressor. The most transparent one I use is the Fab Filter C4. Now they're up to. But it's not my favorite necessarily.
Sounds explosive.
Sometimes you need some color. Anyway, I think
nothing to add to that.
Yeah, the metrics on this just crashed through the floor. This is the second of 2 episodes, and we've now said enshittification in both. I think this is a streak we can try to keep going.
You get a swear jar for it or something? Like
or a bonus bucket.
Yeah.
One way or the other. So now is the format mandated period that we call the synthesis. You all excited for this? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to take all 3 of these ideas and put them together into an amalgam or an amalgamation, and leave in the comments if you understand the difference between the two, because I do. One's a soup, one's a stew. And we're going to try to figure out, what does this mean about this month? These are the things that are on our mind. So I'm going to ask all of you to go around and give me the quick 1-sentence version of your signal, and then we're going to start synthesizing. CJ.
AI is at its best when people are coming together.
Was that really your signal?
Yes.
All right.
Meaning when people are together and sharing ideas and using that as framing the context, that's where you get intentional AI. That's where you get asking questions and feedback loops. Meaning conversations, human interactions drive better outcomes, is what I meant to say.
I thought it was if vibe coding's good. I think that's better.
Oh, vibe coding, great. Yes, good.
It's kumbaya
Dude,
shit.
I think you stole my answer too.
Yeah. Andrea, when humanity comes together, what's your signal?
I'm gonna keep singing because there's auto-tune hopefully getting.
That was incredible, by the way. You just figured out how to approximate auto-tune.
We can put that in
We
post,
could put that in post, but
We're
we
gonna do it in
won't.
post.
We're going to show exactly how you did it.
Interplay between people and machines cannot be denied. We're not going anywhere.
That is your signal for this. And Rudy.
Stop using pad stock photography on
Oh
your
my
website.
gosh.
All right, so somewhere between the humanity of no stock photography, let real people at your company talk to real people for these otherwise terrifying processes, and vibe coding is good because it brings people together. What do we think the synthesis of this month is?
We can walk around feeling like we're doomed to lose to the bots, but we're not. We're still very much part of this.
Yeah, we have to find the optimal mix of roles. When it's good for a robot to do it, when it's not good for a robot to do it.
As people, don't let your own distinctiveness, don't outsource, don't let it be outsourced to AI.
All right, so there's your gather signal for the beginning of August 2026, the summer of our AI discontent, part 3. This is the third summer of discontent on this. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Rudy. Links to the white paper will be in all the places that links exist. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, viewers. We will see you again next month. Bye.
Bye.